Time now for the Redbird Report podcast with the TV voice of the Cards, Danny Mac, and Cards World Series champion Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.
The Redbird Report on 101 ESPN. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and Brad Thompson is with me from 101 as well as Bally Sports Midwest as we head to Colorado, and the Cardinals will take on the Rockies tomorrow for the first of three. But we've got to go back, Brad, and talk about the homestand that was. Trade deadline came and went. Cardinals make a couple of deals. They sweep the Cubs. They sweep the Yankees in one of the more memorable regular seasons I could ever remember at Busch Stadium 3. We had a record-setting crowd, the biggest ever in the history of the ballpark on Saturday. Let's see, Yadi's 1,000th hit, DeJong's 100th home run. I mean, you had a little bit of everything in that series and in that homestand. That was fun.
And your St. Louis Cardinals are 2 games clear of the Milwaukee Brewers for first place in the division. Like, life is good right now for a Cardinal fan. So let's go back, okay, Dan, to our last podcast prior to the trade deadline, as there were plenty of rumors surrounding Juan Soto. Cardinals obviously do not end up with Soto. Soto goes to the Padres. Many Cardinal fans disappointed, and understandably so, okay? We know the talent that Soto is. The Padres gave up a haul to get him. Well, instead of the Cardinals just saying, well, we didn't get Soto, they went out there and acquired a couple of pitchers. They pick up Jose Quintana, who in his Cardinal debut was really good. Only gave up 1 hit, a solo home run in the first inning. He was solid after that, punched out 7. Then they pick up Jordan Montgomery, a name that, Dan, we kicked around all kinds of names, and we threw out all different starting pitchers. Did you hear anybody talk about Jordan Montgomery being available?
Never heard it once. Never heard it once, and I wonder now that we're saying this after watching the weekend, and Montas yesterday wasn't great, and that's going to change. He'll be fine, but that's one I wonder if the Yankees, do they regret it? Now, they do have Severino coming back in mid-September, but that's a name I just did not hear, and I'm really curious to see how it plays out.
I am too, and I'm very glad. I don't say that in the sake that it's like I'm glad to see Harrison Bader go, because you and I have been high on Harrison Bader. I think Harrison has been a guy over the years that everybody looks at his offense and say, well, he needs to be better. I think the offense around him wasn't good, and it made him a focal point. The guy's one of the best center fielders in the game of baseball, and he's got the hardware to prove it. But there was a specific need that the Cardinals had, and it was to replenish their starting pitching. There's only so long that you can continue to just wear out your bullpen, and that's what they were doing. And they end up picking up 2 starters. Dylan Carlson, by the way, has looked pretty darn good in center field, and then all of a sudden, Lars Nootbaar has emerged in
you
right.
Love saying Noot.
Oh, who doesn't? Everybody. He gets a ball hit his direction, and everybody's yelling Newt at Busch Stadium.
Yeah.
Heck, we had it in Washington, Dan. We were doing the games there. Lots of Cardinal fans, and they're all yelling Newt. So, like, you just never know what happens when you give somebody an opportunity. I think that he has run with it. And for the Yankees, they're a really good ball club, okay? And they needed to solidify some defense. They made Harrison Bader for them as a postseason move. So we'll see how it works out for them. I just know this for the Cardinals, and Dan, you know this. You've been around this organization forever. You've been around this team all year. This feels different right now. They've rattled off 7 straight wins. They're 9-1 in their last 10. And again, they're in first place, heading to Colorado with 3 there. And then you get to go back home, and guess who you play? The Brewers, right?
That's
so
right.
You get a chance to extend that lead, hopefully. You've got a tale of 2 different teams right now after the trade deadline. The Brewers trade off Hader. It seems like they've had their bullpen collapse a little bit here recently. They're a little down in the dumps. I even heard their owner talking about the move of trading Hader, and he basically laid it at the feet of their president of baseball operations. And he said, hey, I'm just a fan on this one. I'm sad to see him go too. It seemed like a very curious move, and one that might change the direction of that franchise this year.
Absolutely. I didn't agree with the move at the time, and you may recall it was 24 hours prior to the deadline. You and I are getting ready to do a game, and I said, Brad, you played this game. You played it a long time. You've been in those clubhouses. You've definitely been in bullpens where that guy is the leader. I said, man, when you walk in, isn't that kind of demoralizing? And you said, without even hesitation, I don't even know if I got it out. You're like, yeah. And I said, I don't agree with that. I just don't understand why you would do that, especially with a year of control where you could have moved him in the offseason. So they decided not to do that. And so Hader is with San Diego. San Diego made the biggest moves of anybody, you'd have to say, when you get Juan Soto and Josh Hader. I don't think anybody thought that somebody
and
would
Josh Bell.
And Josh Bell, that's right. And you shouldn't overlook that. So the other thing I want to get into, though, is the impact of Yadier Molina. You pitch to this guy, and I don't think that should be overlooked. And again, this kind of sums up to me his career. You don't pay attention to the offense, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he does in handling the staff. Does he get credit for throwing out guys at second and third? Yep. Does he get credit for pickoffs? Yes. Longevity, toughness, all that. Does he get enough credit, though, for guiding someone through a game? He did that Saturday. He did it all weekend. That should not be overlooked, and how important his presence has been behind the plate.
I think he gets that credit in St. Louis, knowledgeable fan base that gets the opportunity to watch him day in and day out and see how he does this with not only young pitchers, but veterans that maybe come over from other places, or even on a day where Waino doesn't have his best stuff. I feel like those two work together so well. I feel like he gets that credit here, but I don't think that he gets it nationally. And I understand that. It's something that you have to see it for a long period of time to be able to give the credit where credit is due. But you're absolutely right. Him coming back has changed this ball club and changed its attitude. Yadi plays, and we talked about this on the broadcast the other day, Yadi plays with a chip on his shoulder. Yadi plays like someone is trying to take food off of his plate. Like, that's how he goes about every single day. And that's an attitude that's contagious. And even, Nolan Arenado had himself a heck of a homestand. He's having an incredible year. It's only overshadowed by the monster year that the probably MVP Paul Goldschmidt is having.
Well, he's got to be starting to get thrown into that MVP conversation too. Yeah.
Of course he is. No, you're absolutely right. But even Nolan Arenado, who is a star in this game, Nolan, he referenced the trade deadline. He said, yes, that absolutely helped. We went out there and picked up a couple of pieces that are going to be great. But he said, don't overlook Yadi coming back. Like, that to him, to Nolan Arenado, is one of the biggest differences of this ball club, the attitude and the way that they're playing right now. So it's fantastic to have him back. We all want the history, right? We all want Waino and Yadi to be able to break the all-time record of the battery record, and that'll be great. I think they're 7 more away from that to tie it. So we're getting close to that. But it's more than that. Yadi's a winning baseball player. Adam Wainwright is a winning baseball player. Albert Pujols is a winning baseball player. These records, these milestones, they mean something no matter what. But they mean a lot more if this is a team that's heading to October and has big plans of trying to win a championship. And I feel like that's what they are.
Yeah, it's a different looking team. What does it do, Brad, from a player's perspective? I can only say from teams that I've watched and covered, when you sweep the Yankees, and again, the Yankees aren't playing their best baseball, and they were without Rizzo, without Stanton, 2 massive bats and players in their lineup, granted, but still, that's a very, very good team. They came into the weekend having hit 185 home runs, and they didn't get a home run in 19 straight, by the way, 19 straight games they had hit a home run. They didn't homer on Friday, didn't homer Saturday. They finally got one late off of Helsley, of all people. LeMahieu, at the very end of the game. Now, having said all that, though, it's still a hell of a team, and you just swept them, and you did it in tight games. You found ways to win. From a player's perspective, and I've seen it with other teams, this is a jumping start of, the all of a sudden, man, they believe. You believe if you're a Cardinal. Not to say that they didn't before, but, man, this reinforces maybe what you're thinking. From a player's perspective, what does that weekend do?
Yeah, when you're a Major League Baseball player, you know how fortunate you are, and you're excited to go to the field and you're excited to go to work. But this is a little different. For a lot of teams, this August is the dog days where they're still trying to get through it. Right now, for the Cardinals, it's the best baseball they've played, and it puts a little extra pep in your step. And it also, like, you sweep the Yankees at home and you sweep a homestand, well, it makes you a little cocky. And I think that's a good thing. I think that any good athlete's a little bit cocky. Now, you can go too far, but you can tell when a ball club is confident. You can tell when somebody, when a team gets off the bus, like, oh, they got it. They got something special about them. They got an energy. You walk into a clubhouse of a team that is playing like the Cardinals are. And I'm really excited to get to Colorado, be around the guys, and feel that vibe in the clubhouse. It's going to be fun. It's going to be light. But as soon as the game gets closer, it's going to be intense. Like, these are the days that you're fighting to go to the ballpark. A day like today and an off day, it was a long day. It was a hot weekend. I guarantee you these guys want to be playing today, though, the way that they're playing. And by the way, how about setting a record yesterday for that ball game? Longest 9-inning game at Busch Stadium 3. It was the longest 9-inning game in all of baseball. Yet it didn't feel like it because it was a ridiculous baseball game. You said it during the broadcast, Dan. If you're complaining, it was about the 3-hour mark. If you're complaining about how long this game is, you might want to find another sport because that was back and forth.
Yeah, and that's the point I've tried to make all the time. And we can have these implementations to speed up the game, and I'm for that. I think there's times that we need to do that, but it's about the action in the game. So if a game takes 8 hours or it takes 2 hours, I just want action. And that's what we had. We had so much drama over the weekend. The return of Matt Carpenter. We haven't even gotten into that yet. Yeah. And it seemed like every game was coming down to an at-bat, which it did, with either Judge or Carpenter. I mean, you can't draw that up in other sports, and that's why I love baseball, and that's why I love this weekend. It was just perfect how it played out. And now you turn the page, you got Michaelis, you got Quintana, and you've got Hudson in the 3 games in Denver. You don't want to have a letdown. You want to make sure that you take care of business against a team that usually is very tough at home. Cardinals always travel well with their fans to Denver. You know that well, being a player and having done that. But you don't want to have the letdown of what we had this weekend and of this homestand too.
No, you're absolutely right. You prepare going in for this series against the Rockies, and the Rockies are sitting here at 48-63. They have no postseason aspirations here. But you prepare for this series, and you go out there with the same energy and the same drive as you did against the Yankees. And that's something that I think that Ollie Marmol and his staff do a really good job of, is making sure their guys are up. And all of the details matter in every single series, whether it's the Yankees or the Rockies. And you feel really good about your first couple of days, certainly with Michaelis. I can't wait to see Quintana again. He was really impressive. And when I'm looking at the third game of this series, there's going to be a big focus for me, and I would think a big focus for the team on Dakota Hudson and what he does in his outing. He's going to be going against Marquez. It wasn't a great outing for Dakota last time out. His pace was bad again, and then Palante came back and threw 4 innings in relief. The wheels have to be turning a little bit right there. Do they make that switch? I think it's a big start for Dakota Hudson.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to say this too. The residual effect of the trades to bring in starters allowed you to have the chance to win the game on Friday night. So that was Palante giving you the 4 innings coming out of the bullpen. He was fantastic. And now we have a little bit of a resurgent Paul DeJong. And Paul DeJong comes through in the biggest moments. Friday night with the double that wins the game. And then yesterday, his 100th career home run off of Big Mac Land, 3-run homer. And it proved to be big because LeMahieu, that was a 1-run game, winds up hitting the home run off of Helsley. Boy, a resurgent Paul DeJong could do a ton for this team.
He can, and it comes back to depth in the lineup. It's something we talked about a lot. Okay, this is not Paul DeJong, at least with the expectations currently, that they were last year, where Paul DeJong was starting and he was batting 4th on opening day. Like, that's not exactly where you need him to be right now. You got guys in the middle of this order that can carry you, but you need depth, and especially high-end depth, and that's exactly what Paul DeJong can be. Not to say he can't grow even more in this lineup, but he's got pop. I mean, this is a guy that has power, has proven that he will go the other way. Those 2 doubles that he ended up hitting, he hit the one off Clay Holmes and the one yesterday before he ended up hitting that home run. So he's driving the ball the other way. And then if you make a mistake to him, well, he can do that to you. You can hit that big home run. You look back at the last 4 games, he's got 4 hits, 3 of them doubles and 1 of them a home run. Like, that's exactly what you can get. And that was batting mainly out of the 7 hole in the lineup. So Paul DeJong plays really good defense for you. It allows Tommy Edman to shift back to a more, I won't even say more natural, but a position that he's won a Gold Glove at second base. You know, he's got crazy range. It just helps your ball club in so many ways. And Dan, we talked about this on the broadcast. You can tell by the way that Paul DeJong is carrying himself that he's in a better headspace. Like, he's just not fighting himself anymore. I liked him when he was talking about his swing and just realizing he doesn't try to have to lift the baseball. His swing will do that naturally. He's letting the game come to him right now, and I think that's where he's going to have the most success.
Brad, I'm going to wrap it up with this. Pitching in Colorado, and pre-humidor, post-humidor, I don't care. It's not easy. It's a big, spacious ballpark, and that's one of the points I always try to make when you play a team in the National League West, especially Colorado. Yes, the home runs will happen, but you got to have guys that can go get it in the outfield. The gaps are huge. From a pitcher's perspective, you can't worry about that, I would assume. You were a sinker baller. They probably relied on you a lot to pitch in Colorado. What is it like pitching at that ballpark?
It is different. It's definitely different. And it's not just the way the ball moves. It's like how you feel as you're going deeper into a ball game. It's tougher and tougher to breathe. Like even the jog in from the bullpen, you get there and you're like, oh my God, how far was that? You do have to
sure
prepare
that
for
wasn't
that.
because of Helton and, maybe the middle of the lineup that you had to deal with that you weren't out of breath? I'm just saying.
That could have been it too. Look, there are a few different variables when you played there. Now, some of those have cleaned up a little bit as, Matt Holliday's not looming over there right now. Although they got some guys, certainly. But no, one of the biggest keys is you really have to focus on down. Okay. So a lot of the times that you're relying on your movement of your pitch to get down and hit the spot, you have to change your starting point. That ends up being a really big key. And especially the first couple of warm-up pitches, when you get from the game, from the bullpen mound to the game mound, I always focused on almost trying to spike a few pitches. And it was crazy. Almost every time I would do that, I would focus like down, like let me bounce that like right behind the plate. And it would end up being a strike low in the zone. Like it's just really weird how it changes. I don't know if the mounds are different in the pen or it was just, getting back out there and having the adrenaline of being on the game mound. But focusing on down is going to be a big key because you have so many starters for the Cardinals that get tons of ground balls, work down in the zone. That's going to be the key early on. So the first innings are going to be something really to look out for this Cardinal pitching staff.
Hey, buddy, always love doing this. Looking forward to the 3 games in Denver. Then we come home, and the Brewers will be in town. So it should be a fun week of baseball.
It's going to be great, man. This team is playing their best baseball so far. Cardinal fans, hey, jump aboard. Let's enjoy the ride together because it's a good one.
All right, buddy, that's Brad Thompson. I'm Danny Mack, and this is 101 ESPN.
You've been listening to the Redbird Report podcast with the TV voice of the Cards, Danny Mack, and Cards World Series champion Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.